Hi, I'm Beverly Adams. I grew up back in the 50s in Shreveport, Louisiana. I grew up in the Methodist Church, which is considered a mainline Protestant church, but nobody there was protesting anything. I don't even think they knew what a Protestant was. When we were in the 3rd grade at church, all the kids from my grade were brought up to the front and given Bibles. I thought that was kind of special. It was really neat. But we were never asked to bring them back again or to read them or study anything from them. I knew my Baptist friends, they read their Bibles and they brought them to church with them. They even knew how to pray. We didn't. Time passed. I graduated from high school and went to Louisiana Tech, met my future husband, Gary. He grew up Catholic and he'd learned a lot of things about some of his church's history, so he was glad to go with me to my church. We graduated, got married, moved back home, and began attending Sunday school and church at my hometown childhood church. We were in a lovely class of a group of about 30 plus or more young couples. And when we arrived, they were studying through the book of Daniel. We were even asked to teach a couple of chapters of that book. We tried, but we really had no idea what it was about. But I also soon learned that nobody else in the class had a clue about it. We finished the Old Testament, and then we decided to study something else. Of course, they contacted people from other churches and had them tell what their church believed. But those folks were glad to share what they believed because they knew what they believed. However, we had no clue. After listening to the beliefs of several other churches, the class held another meeting to decide what to study next. We wanted to study the Bible, and so did a couple of other couples. But we were outvoted, and their comment was about studying the Bible. We've already done that. Let that sink in a minute. We decided at that point we needed to make a change and to find another church, one that studied the Bible, but we didn't have a clue which one to go to or how to begin the process, and we were not deeply committed Christians and praying about it at that point, but we did want to head in the right direction. Before we made any decision about that, we received a brochure in the mail inviting us to an evangelistic series at the Broadmoor Theater. That was the local movie theater where I had paid a dime on Saturday mornings throughout my youth and gone and watched cowboy movies or monster movies every Saturday morning. It was where the kids threw popcorn boxes in the air at the end of the movie. It had fallen on hard times and had recently closed, but evidently the church had rented it for this evangelistic series. The brochure pictured strange animals on the cover, and I knew enough about the Bible to realize that prophecy would be discussed. And I was excited. I thought that was going to be neat. So we went to those meetings. There were 4 or 5 meetings in the evening every week, and it was a little tiring because it lasted probably 4 or 5 weeks, but it was so interesting, and biblically it was very educational. Every night the evangelist covered a different topic. And each night he sent us home with a paper listing all of the Bible verses that he had explained. I was really impressed because he emphasized, don't believe me. You go home and read these verses and see if they don't say exactly what I said. And so we did. We read them. We looked them up. He was right. And I had never heard so much truth from the Bible before. I was just blown away with all these new truths. And one big thing that was a big change for me was the fact that the dead rested in the grave until Jesus comes the second time. I was always taught that when you died, you went straight to heaven. But after looking at all the verses, I discovered that what I believed before could not possibly be true. But all these new truths made sense. They all fit together beautifully. They were all there in the Bible. We just missed them all those years. Where I'd gone to church, nobody was studying, and nobody really cared. I had also never heard of going to church on Sabbath, except for my Jewish friends from public school days. But now that I learned there were Christians who did too, so we visited their church to check it out. They were nice. The service was normal. There was nothing crazy going on, and they ate lunch afterwards, and we were invited. The food was vegetarian, and it was good. And the important part was that they were trying to eat like the Bible taught. This new religion, this new belief system I was learning, was all-encompassing. I was falling in love with Jesus, Jesus who wanted to change all of me, spiritually, emotionally, and physically. We also learned about the gift of the spirit of prophecy in this church. We heard about a prophet, Ellen White, a young woman who had written a lot of books and was one of the founders of our church. We both decided that since everything else we learned rang true, we would get baptized and join this church. And if we ever discovered that this prophet was wrong, we would be out the door. We were baptized and joined the Shreveport First Seventh-day Adventist Church in July of 1977. I have since read many books by Ellen White, and they have been a huge blessing in my life, and I am still a member of the church 42 years later. This big change has been a wonderful blessing in my life. I have learned so much and gotten to know Jesus, my Savior, so much better. I may not be where I need to be spiritually, but the Lord is taking me one step at a time, and He is so good to me. I also really appreciate our church's health message, and I want to be ready when Jesus comes, and I also want to help others get ready too.